Hi there, and welcome to Grey Muzzle Geekery for the week of August 26, 2019, episode 29. Getting close to 30. Oh boy. I'm Dusty Red, and with me as always,
I'm Dusty White.
And we'll get into this week's news. Announced in March of 2019 at PAX East, the Jackbox Party Pack 6 is set to release this fall with a slew of new games and a very highly anticipated sequel, Trivia Murder Party 2. Other games include Joke Boat, Dictionarium, Push the Button, and another currently untitled game.
Ever wonder what famous dead rapper Tupac's cutie mark might have been? Wonder no more. Hasbro, yes, you heard me, toy maker Hasbro, has purchased Death Row Records Entertainment for $4 billion. Who's to know? Suge Knight might have been a hell of a brony. Disney Plus continuing to hitch their wagon to Marvel, now slating to have more scripted shows than any other franchise, with more reveals of shows such as She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and Moon Knight.
Do you wish to be all that you can't be? Have you ever dreamed of being a mighty warrior, a tricky rogue, a resourceful spell sword, or a mage skilled in the arts of healing or damage? Do you want to take part in the stories that Dusty White and myself tell? Or better yet, create stories of your own? Then join us on the weekend of September 13th through 15th at Alliance South, Michigan. Located in Chelsea, Michigan, 1 hour west of Detroit. Come and join us for this very special event known as DRAGONFALL, where we feast and celebrate the death of the evil dragon, once known as Bleak. Be sure to check out our show notes for a link to the pre-registration site. And remember, while you may have to pay for your meal, your first event is free. And finally, we could finally announce some big news for your hosts here at Grey Muzzle Geekery. Dusty White and myself, Dusty Red, will be 2 of 12 contestants for the podcast show America's Next Top Podcaster, hosted by Brian Ibbott of Coverville.
We decided to join a competition and persuaded Dusty Red to join it with me.
I don't like group projects.
However, we didn't expect much, but lo and behold, not one, but both of us were chosen as contestants.
Out of a couple hundred applicants, so to speak. And we will be doing a 13-week contest.
We'll see.
Well, if we can make all 13, but it's a 13-week contest where the first few weeks will be 3 teams of 4. And from there, they whittle away one podcaster at a time down to the final handful. And then they compete off in one-on-one podcasting skills. It's almost like a dodgeball tournament or something. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a team project. But the goal is, obviously, Brian Ibbott is a longtime podcaster himself since 2006, and runs Coverville.
Correct.
And last I heard, he's got like 1,500 episodes or something like that. It's pretty extensive catalog of stuff. But he also runs a variety of stuff with the Frog Pants Network.
Correct. And
so he is doing a show, a contest, a podcasters contest. And you're 2 hosts here, as we were expecting just one of us. Like, we got the message saying, hey, one of us is in, and we're like, congratulations, awesome. And they're like, oh wait, we want you both. So this ought to be really good to flex our some of our own muscles here and see how we do. Either way, it's good for us, and hopefully for you guys who like to listen to us ramble on, you have another opportunity to hear us more or less outside of our elements.
Right.
Working with other people, because I don't like team projects.
I have no problem with it. However, some of us are more introverted people.
Okay, I'm introverted, but I get along with everyone. I don't want to hear it, right?
Uh-huh.
I am well-loved and cherished by all. No, but so, yeah, congratulations to you, my dear Dusty White, and self-back-patting to me for being 2 of 12 contestants that will be representing Grey Muzzle Geekery, but I like to think we'll be representing you guys who have impeccable taste in podcast choices. So, ta-da! Yes, we'll be on, and as soon as we get information as to when the episodes are airing and what is going on with all that, we will let you know. We know that we have a bit of a busy schedule coming up in the next couple weeks.
I'm going to get so tired of talking.
I do not think that is possible.
Hey.
The W-O before the M-A-N
Really?
says you are...
Interesting studies have been released about that. Let's not get into that.
I know. So, yeah, I mean, we'll keep you guys informed what's going on. Like I said, I know that we are going to be recording very soon. We will actually be receiving coaches and talk to some of the judges and then have to talk to some of our teammates early on, depending how they do it. I assume they're not going to have Dusty White and I on the same team out the get-go. So
That'd have been poor choice.
now, if like anything else, you'd assume there'd be a level of competition or a level of drama being built
Being
up.
from co-hosts to competitors.
And we also have very different skills, where I am definitely more of the technical guy and you are the more social and knowledgeable presence here. So it'll be interesting to see when we're out of our elements as a team and having to work with a team, but also still be a level of competition. But from what I'm hearing and from some of the season 1 episodes, because we're season 2.
Correct.
We're going to be on season 2. But listening over and, keeping on some of season 1 stuff, you could hear and see that even though it's a competition, a lot of it is about
bettering people within the community and basically sharing knowledge that one podcaster can raise the elevation or raise the standards to another podcaster. It's more of a supportive community than, hey, we're all vying for limited airspace, because that's not a thing.
No, for sure. It's not old radio anymore where you only get like 12 stations and you're hoping for the best. There's thousands of choices based on what you want, and stylings too. I mean, I did a little research for myself, and I've forgotten how many styles of podcasters.
Yeah.
There's the conversational podcasters, like your murder mystery style, like podcast,
True
like tell a
crime
story.
story.
Well, I know, like
Yeah.
you have true crimes, which tells about murder stuff. But what's the one that you guys were listening to for a little while? It like tells a story of this weird town that's got all.
Oh, Night Vale?
Yeah, Night Vale.
Okay.
But it's more like a news, like
Yeah,
a fantasy news type setting.
It's very unique.
to like I not even cut my teeth, but like I started listening to a fantasy football podcast.
Right.
When I was at work and like we're playing fantasy football at work, and I was like, well, I don't have time to do this research, but I do have time to listen to a conversation. So I would listen to 6 hours of fantasy football, talking about players, talking about stats and statistics and whatnot. But it was my way of getting into this to comedians that do conversational and interview podcasts, or do, again, like Bill Burr, will tell jokes to himself.
Right.
And use a lot of that material for future stand-up and whatnot. So it's so many variety of podcasts that are out there that it's going to be interesting to talk to other people who do other podcasts. From furries and LARPing to actual medical professionals to people who are interested in metal music and rock music,
right,
to people who are religious or spiritual. So it'll be exciting to see and to meet these other people and to learn from them, because one of the other stipulations is that you have to have less than 2 years. 2 years of experience podcasting. So it is geared for people like us who are not terribly experienced but excited and have
jaded.
Less jaded is one way to put it, for sure. I am jaded, period. So they're working with a different mold here, but yeah, we're excited to do just pop one on air. Nope, just do it. There we go. Now, what are you drinking, my dear, tonight?
Why are we talking about this? I'm getting rid of the crap that's in your fridge.
Yeah, my parents came to visit for one of my sister's dress shopping sprees, and they're like, okay, we're gonna buy beer, and I was like, sweet, I get leftover beer. And then when I finally came to my apartment to see the leftover beer, it was a case of Miller Lite. Yeah,
I'm showing my heritage, being from the South. I can drink a Miller Lite.
Miller Lite's from Milwaukee. That's north of 80.
Whatever.
You and your Anheuser-Busch over here.
I can drink some, less than flavorful beer.
Okay. Hey, they will be absolutely flavorful if they choose to sponsor us, and we will happily drink Oh, the Miller Lite or Bush or Coors.
Don't you dare say natural ice.
No, I'm actually thinking maybe we could get lucky and get sponsored by the one and only, the Claws, the Law, some White Claw.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, well, it's funny because this week's episode is going to be a little bit about what we were listening to, some of the Coverville stuff. And one of the early episodes that they had tasked for their teams on season 1 was picking a team name. And kind of got Dusty White and I talking a little bit about names and the weight behind names. And we, being in a variety of communities, put a different weight on names than other people might. Like, apparently I have a boat in my backyard, but so we have different a different weight on names because we use names for characters. We use names for in the furry community who have names that they gravitate to, and so a rose by any other name. So let's go into a bit about names.
So I wanted to start this conversation off with one of my favorite quotes from a series that I happened to just re-listen to, and it's "The Name of the Wind" by Patrick Rothfuss. I always want to mispronounce his last name, but he states, "Words are pale shadows of forgotten names. As names have power, words have power. Words can light fires in the minds of men. Words can wring tears from the hardest of hearts." So when Red talks about us as a community, either LARPing or furries or any other type of gaming that you might do, tabletopping or dinner, mystery dinner parties or things like that, names have the ability to almost mentally compartmentalize who you are at that moment. So if someone, I will personally say I've never liked my actual name. I went through a real weird phase when I was a preteen of wanting my name to be Kirsten instead of Kristen.
K-E-R?
Kirsten. Kirsten.
Okay.
I've just never... I'm not named after anybody, at least the first name. I'm not named after anybody in my family. They just thought it was a unique name, and then it ended up being one of top 10 names the year I was born. So I've just never really gravitated towards my name. However, growing up and learning how to be a LARPer or getting into LARP meant I had an opportunity to change my name. And even though we joke about it here on the podcast, I didn't know Dusty Red when I chose my name.
Mm-hmm.
I happened to be getting my character built by someone, and he, as we were building it, he just happened to say, what are you looking at for a name? I happened to say something, I think I wanted to go by Shimmer or something, and they were like, no, there's already plenty of Shimmers, you can't go by that. So I was just like, okay, something Dusty, and I spelled it, and they were like, yeah, that's fine. So I don't know if that's maybe why I ended up with the name and nobody said, oh, there already is a Dusty, but
it's irrelevant. I mean, there's 1,000 other people in real life with our names too, so
right. I happened to meet you, I think the second time I LARPed at Midwest, and was like, oh, another Dusty. And it was a little serendipitous and ended up sitting next to you at some weird random feast. And I was so below your radar of even conversing with at that point that I didn't think of it until many years later when I moved up here. But to go by Dusty and to go by names, because even online we have a tendency of screen names to go by different things there. You have a way of compartmentalizing and almost recreating your personality based on what kind of name you choose.
So do you know offhand some of the names that you used through time periods? I joke again about using the timeline of tragedy as a point of reference for when I used X name, Y name, or whatever. But do you have... Because there's one thing I've noticed as character limits have increased and people use more name type stuff, where once upon a time when we were on America Online or different smaller
Live journal
even. I mean, for the most part, I still use one of my major monikers for the longest time, Fox Fuzz.
Okay.
FOXFUZZ, because I liked foxes growing up. I went with Fuzz, which is a police term, and I was, and again, in a police family and was going to be a cop myself. So that was a term that was alliterative. Fox Fuzz, FF, haha, funny. Has kind of a double meaning there, and, kind of adorable in one way, but still held meaning. But that was something that I came up with when I was 15, 14, 13.
I feel like a little bit of my naming was held back because my dad was very helicoptery when I first started doing online AOL chat rooms and stuff. So he's like, you can't have anything that might identify you. So it was very like my initials and something simple.
So what was one of the first names that you remember going by?
Probably Yahoo Dreamweaver. My mom was a big Monkees fan growing up, and I think I've talked about it before. Mm-hmm. So one of her favorite songs was Dream Believer.
Right.
But I didn't want to be that like cliche about it, so I went with Dreamweaver. Little did I know it was some like programming program for a very long time. Yeah. So I had been asked that over a course of a couple of years of, are you into programming? I'm like, no, not really. So I was a little late on the naming type of things and finding names that you can gravitate to. Dusty was probably my first and will be my forever. I am going by K a lot now. That was kind of new and late in the game for me as a actual name because of where I worked, and there was already a Tristan. And when you answer a phone at a call center or basically a software company and you say your name, all they hear is that last syllable
or something close to.
So
it's one of the reasons
I had to rename that.
That's one of the reasons why you and I, I can't say we're all over the map because we're on a very good spot. I need to rethink. I need to rephrase, or not so much rephrase, put into mind how I want to go about this. Because I want to go timeline, but I can't go timeline because you bring up a very good point. I also went by a different name. Like, I used Dusty as one of my primary characters. Like, Dustin, and even then, some people still spell it with a YN, which is something I kind of did as a joke, and it stuck, and I didn't mean for it to do it.
I didn't know that.
Like, it's supposed to be Dusty.
Okay.
Dusty. And then they ask, what's your formal name? And I was like, Dustin? That's the full thing. But, like, how do you spell it? And I was playing a dumb animal who doubled cost for skills. So I didn't know I into a Y and et cetera, et cetera. So it was just Dusty. N. And that was it. Like, so that was the joke behind it. But then years later, I look back and now I feel like one of those, like, edgelords or emo kids are like, Dusty, and I spell it a Y because I was raised by elves. I'm so unique. Like...
Wow.
But as we ran with the similar name of Dusty and Dusty, Dustie and Dusty, we didn't think much of it. Like, yeah, okay, there's another Dusty running around. But you and I ran in different circles.
Right,
especially
for a very long time.
In the LARP community, it really didn't matter that much. But when you became more of your own, and that's where you had the opportunity of growth. I can't say more than I did, but differently than because I, again, played a rogue. I played a very similar type character, or a very solitary type character, very, not isolated, but I
self-sufficient.
I was self-sufficient, but I rolled in, did what I needed to do, rolled out. I had no interest to be a leader. I don't like group projects. So it was a case of, you know what? Dusty White became more popular. She became bigger in the scene, in the LARP community. She got more known. You helped run and ran major groups and had an influence between guilds and personal groups and all sorts of stuff, you became more of a figure. And at that point, I went, okay, I happened to be running around I made up a moniker, which is fun when you have a character that you make up and then you make up a nickname for the character as well.
Okay, following.
And so I ended up coming up with Red Rapscallion.
Right.
Which is, again, I love alliteration. I'm a whore for the English language. And thought it was catchy. And again,
it's really just a comic book bad guy name.
Red Rapscallion? I mean,
come on.
I can't see it. Maybe I can. I think of it just a bad Joker. Like, not even like comic book Joker, but like State Fair Joker.
On
like,
God.
Not even that. Like, I don't know, Bozo the Clown's little friend, Red Rapscallion. Like, and for those not in the Midwest, Bozo the Clown was. No, anyway. So, it was just one of those things of, like, I thought it was catchy. I still kind of like it, and obviously playing a red fox, the red fit. I also play, due to makeup constraints and stuff, I play a very fire engine red fox.
Right.
Where I've tried orange, I've tried all sorts of different colors to be more of a realistic fox, and I am in no way a makeup artist. So I leaned for the stylistic of cartoonish. Some artists go with like cell shading, some people go for the realism, some go for the anime. There's different styles of everything. Much like for LARPing and makeup.
He goes for stick figure.
I'm lucky. I draw rounded stick figures. So it's a case of trying to figure out, like, how do I get across the point that I am not a human, or I'm not a tiger or an animal other than a fox. So I went foo red with white underneath, black nose, a big old red tail, and used other context clues to emphasize the point that I'm a fox.
Now, which came first? Did it
chicken or the egg?
Did the Red Rapscallion Dusty Red start for LARP first, or did it come from some other source?
Red Rapscallion?
Well, just the name Dusty.
Well, even before, we want to go into that weird thing. Like, my affinity with foxes didn't even start until I was in Little League, and I grew up in a Hispanic neighborhood. It was originally a very heavily Polish and German neighborhood, and then it slowly turned into a Hispanic neighborhood. And I was given the nickname El Zorro Diablo. Which...
The Zorro Devil? I don't know what Zorro... I know. I used to make jokes about El Diablo Blanco.
What do you think Zorro is?
Fox. Oh, shit. I didn't know that.
Zorro and Zora are fox.
Oh,
male and female fox. So El Zorro Diablo is the devil fox.
That makes sense.
And it was funny because when I was a kid, my hair would turn red in the summertime. Like, all the tips on there and everything would just turn red.
You're such a mutt.
I am a mutt. That's the Irish side of my family, and kind of the Spanish side too, though.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, my hair turned red in the summertime. So now I'm, in a fairly Hispanic neighborhood, playing with a lot of Hispanic kids, and then you've got white kid who freckles and turns red in the summertime, but also led the league in stolen bases.
Okay.
And I was a leadoff hitter, and I was second baseman and shortstop. Like, I was the little guy. I'm still little, but I was littler then. I was little then. I'm little now, but I was little then too. Oh, Mitch Hedberg. So because of that, I got the nickname Fox. I got the El Zorro Diablo, and I just kind of gravitated. Like, man, foxes are kind of cool. Like, I was looking them up, and
Do you feel like you were just of that age that you could be like not swayed, but maybe just...
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely swayed. Like, because even when you talk about...
Because at that point, you're looking for an identity. That's the age of, oh, wait, this could be my identity. You can gravitate towards it. So somebody named you something.
And without sounding self-deprecating or anything, it was also a positive nickname. You gotta remember, kids are some of the meanest creatures that you'll ever meet. So between the giant ears and being super small and a variety of character flaws that I have, and a bunch of other people have when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that are, I don't want to say hurtful, but like...
They can be mean.
They can be mean. They're kids. They pick on... John Mulaney says it. I'm thinking of that now. John Mulaney says it, that like third graders will pick on you and they'll find something that's very on point about something. Ha 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 ha! Look at that high-waisted man. Like, so when you have these flaws or you have these things, and all of a sudden you get a nickname that is something, oh, the devil's cool. I'm 13. Yeah, the devil's like a badass. And foxes are kind of neat. They're small. They're quick. And this is something that also got when I got older is like I gravitated towards foxes as a creature because of the way we use animals in English language. The way we look at foxes and say that they're clever. The way we look at, cows or bulls and say that they're dumb or stubborn or it just loyalty like dogs. We associate all this.
We associate certain human-like characters.
So when someone says that I am devil-like and I'm witty, small, and clever, like why would I not glom onto that? Why would I not gravitate to that? So obviously years go by and I stick with kind of that nickname. I kind of like foxes. I start getting fox, like I have a folder from grade school that had a fox on it. And I started a career my parents encouraged. Like, oh, he likes foxes. Okay, cool. We always had dogs and stuff. So they're, foxes are dog hardware, cat software. Like they're kind of there. It's a similar thing. So once that kind of got to that point, it hit, and I know we're tangenting pretty hard now and I think about it, but we're going with this, the naming and identification, which becomes big, especially when you use names for your identity or for identification, where I didn't know about furry, I didn't find furry until 1998 or so, when they're still super underground, nobody really know, and even then, I met somebody on AOL chat room, and they're like, this is my character. It's a werewolf, but doesn't turn back to a human. Which, looking back, is a freaking furry. It's a furry. It's a freaking furry. It's a furry that's a furry. But I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine the tortures of being a were creature all the time. Yeah, it's a furry. It's a freaking furry. So I started kind of dabbling with that, and obviously at that time, when I was that age, Star Fox came out. I grew up watching Ninja Turtles and Biker Mice from Mars and all these other shows, so I gravitated toward that. And I was big into Final Fantasy, so one of the first characters I made was named Sid. Because every Final Fantasy has a character named Sid in it.
Yeah.
So I gravitated, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a character named Sid, and didn't like it. And it wasn't until I made a Fox character on America Online, on the chat rooms, and he was going to be a bard. Early bard days, I did not know I was going to grow up to enjoy bard and barding and
bardic things,
bardic lore and such as much as I do. That I made a fox who was a bard, and somebody asked me on the spot, like, so what's going to be your name? Because I was going with the name Fox was, and they're like, so what's your name? Like, what's your character's name? And I was like, Dustie, because it's like dirt, only lighter. That was my humor when I was 12.
I mean, you haven't gravitated much since that.
Why do you hate me?
I still laugh at your jokes, so it says more about me than it does you.
Fair. And I wonder if anybody listening has laughed as well, because that says a lot about you, listeners. Nanny boo boo.
So it was something that kind of just, you gravitated towards one characteristic or a few characteristics of the animal itself.
For sure.
And then you named the said creature or named the monster.
And it happened before LARPing. And it happened before I LARPed. And because I played other characters and I did other LARPs. I used names, very elven type name, Gavin. Like I've always liked the TH for a name, or GAL or GA, because obviously real names kind of touch into it. I've used my middle and last name for characters. I've used variations of names and stuff that I've heard. Because again, when you're growing up, you're trying to grab on the names. And then I had a friend who taught me how to play Vampire the Masquerade first edition in the gray book with the rose on there.
The Gateway LARP.
The Gateway LARP. No. It was the Gateway LARP with the Vampire, yes. But I was talking about tabletop.
Oh,
Vampire.
Okay.
Gray book.
Got
red
it.
rose on the
Okay.
front. Oh, Vampire the Masquerade. But my DM's name was Dustin. And I kind of liked the name. I thought it was interesting. Like I was like, oh, Dustin's kind of a cool name. So that's another. It's one of those names that's a modern name too. Where when you deal with LARPing or fantasy names, then it gets a little weird because now you start asking like why you gravitate towards.
Oh, it's really hard for being a character like myself who really does actively, as Dustie is the leader, as Dustie is the healer, she does introduce herself and hi, I'm Dusty White, who how are you? Like introducing myself, and there are a lot of names with a lot of syllables, and I immediately go, I am not going to remember
You get
those.
nicknamed. Anybody who wants to start LARPing or has LARPed, if you have a name that's more than 2 or 3 syllables long, everybody who's met you have condensed you down to one syllable.
One or 2 syllables.
So the advice that I could give is you nip that in the bud and you announce yourself or introduce yourself as a 1 or 2 syllable name.
You can be flowy guy, or flowy girl with a real pretty name, but as long as you end it with, but people can call me blah, I might remember you a little bit better. I really am bad at names. So to kind of tangent back to us, or back here, so we've also played other LARPs. We've played other characters. I know we've kind of talked about in the past on our episodes of how we chose our SAR names.
Oh, yes.
Our tribe name, or our SAR kin.
Our
Cat
feline kin now, thanks to 2.0 rules. But our SAR, which are big cats, felines, tigers, cheetah, leopards, margay.
And I will say I've taken that hint or that way of naming and gone and named other things to find for a word and be like, I like even.
So let's do a reminder. So you have a what is she again?
I have
a
silver clouded leopard.
Silver clouded leopard.
That initially was supposed to be the Pride's navigator.
You're going to be a celestial
navigator.
mage, which for those that don't play, celestial is based on like star magic. It is known to be stuff based on constellations or astrological stuff or just planetary alignment or whatever. It's magic that comes from the sky.
Right.
You call upon forces to do things.
Correct.
And so you was going with?
I was going to go by Nyota.
Which is?
Swahili for stars. And I really enjoyed it. I am not a very good celestial caster. Give me earth, give me healing any day, and I will outcast people.
I bet if you play an Iota as a celestial spell sword or something in the 2.0 rules,
maybe
you would be a monster.
Maybe. However, so I forged and I became a fighter type character instead because I needed to get some stick jockeying out. Sure. And needed to just beat some people.
You're used to playing a healer type, so to have the opportunity to be like, hey, I'm gonna play another character, different. And I'm just gonna swing a sword. And you not only swing a sword, but you swing it with the mindset of like, okay, boss said do this, I'm going to do it. Like, there's not much, I can't say there's not much thought, but really, you follow orders. That's the way we play these characters. We followed the captain's orders, because we're a seafaring clan.
Right.
And our captain would say, hey, that person needs to die, and we would just make sure he died, and then afterwards be like, so why do you need to die again?
Right. So, to, just as my reminder, so explain yours.
I Disney named the hell out of it. Like, unabashedly Disney named. I looked and went, I want to play a cheetah. Because, again, some people take characters or some people take aspects of fantasy games and they try to be something different from themselves, which is good. However, when it comes to physical stature, like, I accept my role, or at least I accept the fact that I am a small, quick person.
Right.
Like, even when I play tabletop games,
you have a lot of, like, I will be honest, in LARPing, you have a lot of people that are trying to be something that they don't physically akin themselves to. You are naturally small and dodgy. Therefore, that kind of goes with it.
And there could be some argument in saying that being a small, fast, dodgy person is a crazy advantage in the kind of games that we play.
It happens to be sometimes.
That said, I still, even when I play tabletop games, I tend not to play large characters. I have a couple times, but I don't gravitate. Even when I play D&D, I still end up as the halfling, or I end up as something of a small type character, which maybe it's me accepting my role.
Almost things that can be underestimated.
Not so much things that can be underestimated, because you can still punt a halfling across a football field. Like,
It doesn't mean the halfling's not coming to try to punch you back.
Well, if they're a bard, hopefully they could just play inspiration and go an extra 20 feet so they land on something soft in the netting or something. So, like, generally speaking, I just know that role and I enjoy that role. I'm not trying to play that something outside of that role. I'm not trying to play a small character. I'm not like, or not trying to play, but I am small, so I feel I relate to it. So maybe it's just my thing, but I also am the type of person that picks a character last in the party. Like, I will wait for everybody else to pick what they want to play, and I will fill in those roles.
Fair.
I will look and go, okay, what do we got? And it's like, I'm a fighter, I'm a rager, I'm a rogue, I'm a fighter, I'm a fighter. I'm like, we need a cleric. Got it. So, like, I have a tendency of doing that a lot, too, because I do enjoy playing support roles, or playing not even support in terms of, oh, healers are support or this is support. I like, because if they turn around like, I'm a cleric, I'm a wizard, I'm a cleric, I'm also a wizard, I'm a druid, well, I guess I'm playing a fighter. Like,
right.
So I will play what will support a group to help other people enjoy themselves. That said, yes, so Haraka is my cheetah's name, which in Swahili translates to fast. Cannot get any more Disney than that. Oh, cheetah, name, fast, got it, Haraka, done. So you ask what is in a name, and you
right.
kind of ask like what this is, and Haraka was also made to be a character that I wasn't supposed to gravitate to, that I wasn't supposed to become attached to, kind of a suicide character, go out there, play it, see what happens, and it's something that as I started playing and kind of developing personality as I went, got into the skin, and that's one of the advantages of live action roleplay is you get to be the character and have to angle your brain to think like that character, and so a personality developed and traits developed, and to a point conscious decisions had to be made, even though they would seem like unconscious decisions. I had to angle them to be conscious decisions, otherwise I would slip into Dusty mode,
right.
Or slip in, because you've catch me a couple times, or you look at me like, your fur's looking a little red there, buddy. When I would make a joke or make a comment that maybe Haraka the cheetah wouldn't make.
A little bit more of Gabe's wittiness coming out, more so than you may want to call it Dusty Red, but you personally as Gabe is very witty, and you have a tendency to not let.
I can't let a joke go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't let a joke go. If the joke comes up in my head, I will occasionally break character just to get the joke out there and be like, okay, anyway, back to normal. So there are those moments, and yeah, I don't think I could play a dark elf or a stone elf because of it. But
that would be bad.
Yeah, I just sit there. The stone elf giggling to himself. I mean, you did say you had 4 inches of wood. So yeah, obviously names are very important on many levels in terms of characters, in terms of in the furry world. And I've used the jokes in stand-up, in open mic stuff of like, I don't know if I could date somebody that has a name of an X. I don't know if I could date another Dakota or another Allie or another Sarah. I mean, I guess that's a good thing about the furry fandom, because any dating would be like, yip, fox fucker 69 or something. Woo! Unique, I'm good.
So to kind of bring it away from our little cliche or cliques that we have as far as LARPing or tabletopping or furry, what do you think names represent for in real life? I know we kind of had some heavier topics really, but this kind of tends towards that.
Well, I mean, names go 1,000 ways for 1,000 reasons. Sometimes there are nicknames. We actually have our Discord, the Grey Muzzle Geekery Discord. Again, see the links in the show to join us and join in our conversations. But I did ask some of our listeners, they'd be like, hey, what are some of your names and some of your stuff? And actually, one of them that stands out is something as simple like, for my real name, Gabriel, I'm almost a junior. Like, my dad doesn't have a middle name, but his name is also Gabriel. So it is a case of that name being handed down, which I would suggest parents do not do, because I still get my father's mail, or he still gets my mail, or there's been credit inquiries showing up in my name or his name because of the name.
The similarity.
The similarity of the name, especially when I was living with my folks. Like, if you're 18 and living with your parents, congratulations. If you share a name with them, you've got credit dinged. Like,
yep.
You can't help it. But there are things where, you know, one of our listeners, I can go off here on Tiggy, but she goes and says that TC are her initials. Her sister couldn't properly pronounce her name as a baby, and so they just decided to stick with her initials. It stuck, and her real name doesn't feel like her.
Right.
It doesn't, like, if somebody calls her by her real name, it just doesn't stick.
And I've had a couple of people in my life that are like that. We talk about a couple of other people that have real names that they don't reveal until you really get to know them.
My ex-wife being one of them.
I was going to say your ex-wife being one of them. Another friend of mine, he goes by his middle name. He goes by Cody.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas his first name is something very family oriented, and he just doesn't go by it. So that I always wanted to be, like I said, going back towards my growing up years, I always wanted to be the cool kid with a awesome middle name. I, again, don't like my first or middle name, or actually my last name. I think that says, I don't know.
You gotta like
Maybe
yourself
I have
more.
some.
Love yourself
I
more.
have some more identity crisis.
Kristen's a good name. Kristen's a common good name, though. It's a solid name. K-Stubbs.
Well, and that's just it, is I went through, I unfortunately, whereas you were called something positive as a kid, I went
Not
through,
always. You want to take the first syllable of my first, middle, and last name? It turns into Gay Man Rod.
Oh my god.
You know what? That was picked up by first graders and ran until I was out of grade school.
I still have you beat.
Go for it.
You really want to know?
I mean, you're on air. Go for it.
I know. I unfortunately had a nickname because my last name being Stubblefield. Being... Oh, am I forgetting it now? Maybe I've blocked it out. I've blocked it out.
Years of therapy have already
PTSD.
buried it away?
Yeah, exactly. It was Stubblebutt. Stubblebutt.
Okay, Gay Man Rod trumps Stubblebutt.
I don't know. As a growing up to as a larger, chunkier child, Stubblebutt, or as my unfortunate brother had, Jason Stub Your Toe, growing up.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, kids are mean.
Kids will find anything. They'll just sit there and look and be like, your name is Doogie Butt. Like, my name's Steve. Like, what are you doing? Leave Mr. Steve Spiderton alone. He has nothing to do.
So, kind of to go back to that, what do you think of nowadays when you have such a prevalent either binary or transgender community choosing to change their names?
Well, I mean, it's obviously... I mean, what do I have no opinion that's of any weight, because I am not a transgender person. That said, we did reach out and we did get a little bit of a response back, and I was like trying to poke them because I was trying to elicit more conversation for them. But they said that, boom-ba-doom-ba-doom, they said, hey, I go by a different name than my birth name. The main reason for me going by this name is due to my transitioning. And that fact is I just hate my birth name. So I wanted to, and I tried to reach out to them and really wanted to touch into why they chose that other name. Why they chose what it is. And I get that. Like, it's something as simple as, because even you don't have to transition. People change their names anyway.
Yeah, you can just identify. I actually had a friend of mine's sister just identify one day and just be like, I do not like the name I was given at birth. And luckily she had somewhat of a cool mom to understand. She legally just went and changed her name to Beth. And she's like, I identify as this person. I identify as this name more than the name I was given at birth.
I relate to the name more. Yeah, as for when it comes to transgender peoples, obviously they pick a name to stray away from
what they used to be.
Yeah, who they were or what they want to represent as well.
Right.
In a way, it's super empowering because then they have more agency of their life. They have an ability to stand up and say, hey, this is who I am and this is what I want to do and this is who I want to be and this is what I want to be called as. And I'm obviously, you and I both here at Grey Muzzle Geekery are, pro transgender people.
Absolutely.
So, some of my costume pieces is actually made by, so it's a case of, and even then, we could even go outside transgender people and just say, whatever you want to call yourself is fine. Just give me an idea of what I'm calling you. You want me to call you Matt, Mike, Steve, Donna, James, Jay, whatever, whatever. And it's something I do want to revisit in the future. I do want to talk to somebody and ask them why they go with these names, like what specific about a name. Because a lot of times you will have people that will pick a name that is close to them because of a family, because of an inspiration. I've seen people who have changed their name.
Heck, one of my favorite tabletop characters is Allagash, and it was named after one of my favorite beers. Like, you can get inspiration from wherever.
So if that's the case, that kind of answers your own question that you just were kind of thrown out there of people who have the opportunity to change their name or want the willingness to, have the willingness to change their name, or in some degrees are forced to change their names because it's not a gender neutral type name, so to speak.
Right.
Gabrielle, Gabriella. Like, it's not too far away. My one of my old friend's mother is named Gabriella, and so it was always funny when they're like, Gabe, Gabby, Gabe. Well, like, wait, what? Oh my goodness. Some people just don't like their name, so they want to change. Some people have an affinity because it's a family name.
Right.
You look at my siblings. Again, we're from like an Irish and Hispanic type family, so you have Irish names with Megan and Marie and Shannon and Colleen and all these and Maureen. I don't want to leave my name out, but you have these. I was like, my brain was like, I don't want to call them out on air,
but I'm going to call them out on air.
Some use their middle names. I realized I started using their actual names, and fuck it. So, but they have very Irish names, but they have a very Hispanic last name. So to me, it's beautiful. I love it. I really love the fact that my siblings have very mixed cultures of a Rodriguez last name and a very Irish first name, because it's, to me, it's the joy of America. It's the point
melting pot.
It is the melting pot. It is American at its core of, you can be, I'm trying to think of names offhand. I'm trying to get as racist as possible to make it, but you could be Tyrone Leibowitz or something. You can be, I'm trying to think of other names. Help me out here, so I'm not just...
I'm awful at this.
We'll go with more Irish. Colleen...
O'Hannigan?
That is more Irish on Irish. I was trying to avoid away from that. Trying to think of other, Smith and stuff like that. So you use other cultures and stuff that show that you've got a melting pot, so to speak. The American melting pot. But you have a legitimate of different people that come together in America and have children and celebrate those cultures, celebrate those heritages, celebrate those differences that make those individual families come together. So yeah, I do have a Hispanic last name with very Irish siblings. My name in particular is after my father, so it's kind of tradition-ish to go down that route. It's exciting to see what names could bring, and we kind of do that with characters, and it goes back to what we're saying.
And names in general go into cyclical natures anyway. You have almost an influx of older names.
When's the last time when's the last time we've seen Beth's being born? Or Betty? When's the last Betty you've seen born?
Well, you see, Ruths and Willows and
Willow's a little bit. Willow's a little bit of a, I don't want to say hippie name, but it does follow a. Kind of comes and goes. That one's the one. Ruth is an old name.
Yeah.
You're not going to see Ruth and Betty.
I don't know. I've seen a lot like Emma's and Ruth's. And
I had a couple Emma friends growing up, but Emma's a little bit of an older name for sure. You obviously have the staple names of Mike, John, Steve.
Oh, your biblical names are always
Matthew, Mark,
up
Luke,
there.
and John. Yeah,
are
for
always
sure.
up there on the top 10s.
I've never met a kid named Corinthians, so we're good. Bible joke.
Or
Woo!
Psalms.
Saul. Yeah, so what kind of other names? Can we think of some old names offhand of just like what's out there? That's so yeah. But I mean, yeah, I agree. There are cyclical. So we go back to role playing games. Again, going back to our friend TC that listens. She said that she has a character, and her character name extended based on every deed that she did.
Right.
So
it's almost based on a racial package,
right? Like a racial tradition.
Yeah.
So you killed a dragon, congratulations, you get a new syllable. You killed 6 dragons, it's 6 more syllables. So you end up going from like, yes, my name is Steve, to my name is Steven Stenavin Stiven Steven Stavin Spiderton. Like, huh? Just call me Steve.
Yeah.
So. I mean, obviously nicknames, shortened nicknames. I mean, Gabe is still a nickname.
Right.
People always ask me, it's like, what's your name? It's like, Gabriel. It's like, oh, can I call you call you Gabe? Sure. It's like, I'm going to call you Gabriel. Like, no, my dad's Gabriel.
Yeah, exactly.
I've used that. I'm trying to think other name type things. What kind of other names that we're looking at that could be?
Like I said, I know
the dog's name is Indiana.
I go by, normally now, I go by K. I don't, like I said, it started as a work thing.
So you got Kristen, K, Dustie, occasionally Nyota.
Sai.
Where does Sai come from?
Sai, I named my character Sai based off it being my only character at the time that I created with a significant other. And it's the only character that I try to stay fast to the rule of don't create characters invested in other people. Like, don't create
sure.
the husband and the wife that have characters that are also dating or boyfriend and girlfriend or married or whatever. So I happened to create this character with a significant other, and I went with the name of Sai because that's what he would do, is sigh when he was around me.
Oh, okay.
So I went with a character named Sai, and it was S-I-E, and it's mispronounced all the time. I happened to have a story with our friend Travis, who also made a character at some point named XXI, or XII. I'm not sure which one. He'll correct me on this later. But I happened to meet this character in game, not knowing what it was or anything. All I saw was a dark creature at night with a bunch of weapons attached to him. And he happened to introduce him as Sai. And I went, oh, you can have that name. I can go by anything else.
Call me whatever you want. You've won, sir.
There can be I went by automatic Highlander rules. I did not want to challenge. He automatically won. So it's I just found it so amusing at that point because I had been LARPing by, I want to say, a good dozen years by that point, to suddenly have a secondary character have the exact same problem that my primary character has.
Being named after.
Having another name for another character that exists in the world. Like you said, it happens.
Sure.
But in a unique role-playing fantasy, it doesn't happen. You're not going to meet a bunch of Mikes on the road. Like, I've only met one adventurer that I ever knew as John.
Yeah, no. Well, and that's the joys of when you're creating characters. There is an edginess. That is something that you can
make it whatever you want it to be.
There's something, even 40-year-olds are going to look and be like, nah, I'm going to come up with this, like, clever name, or I'm going to come up with something like that. So, I mean, in fairness, though, we do have a friend named Matt, who goes by Mathis. So, call you out, buddy. But, I mean, yeah, there's always going to be a level of you're going to make a fantasy character.
To be fair, he could have actually, Mathis's full name could be Matthias or something.
Yeah, I mean, let's not go that route.
Like, he's Elven. There's got to be some additional syllables going on there.
He's been around forever, too, so he's probably just saving us. It's like, by the time I finish my name,
you're already older.
You will be dead, dear kid. You only lived for 7 years. You will be dead. And then obviously we'll round it off and finish off with furry names. I mean, a lot of times furry names you'll have something with wolf in there. I'm gonna call out one of our Patreon listeners,
Okay.
since why not? We've been drinking a little bit, and sure, why not? Do you know where Bada, our Patreon listener, shout out, what his full name is on a name generator?
I don't, actually. I don't think I've ever heard this.
Samara Bada Butterfly.
That is precious.
And he kept the Bada part, and ta-da, Bada. But a lot of times furry names will have a tendency of being some sort of with the species. I'm guilty of it. Fox Fuzz. You'll have Night Wolf or Shadow Drake, or I want to say Night Howler and Zootopia Screaming Out. But you'll have a number of characters that'll do that, and character names and whatnot. And a lot of times they're more monikers. Sonic Fox
Right.
is a name. Our friend Xander the Blue. Like, Xander's kind of a common fantasy-ish type name. So that's not I want to say it's not a unique name. It's unique, but Xander is for playing a dragon or being a dragon. That is a common name, or fairly common. The first thing that comes to mind is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Right.
Then you have I'm trying to think of some other names that we.
Well, you have me, who's very struggles in the community. Again, freshly new to the furry community, but here I have a podcast that I go by my elven name Dustie, but our icon is my white foxkin size moniker or picture. And I actually, in the furry community, identify as an elephant.
Right.
So I don't really have a elephant type name because
I know you're rolling Kofi.
I was, but it's one of those things that it just doesn't.
Inira.
It doesn't. I have to find something that fits with me, and I haven't. I haven't found something that I really truly identify with yet.
Sure.
Obviously, again, Dusty is my primary. Dusty is something that I have a lot of care for. But I don't identify that with an elephant type character. So,
and I was about to say, is there an issue of using Dusty? Is the name so synonymous with the character that you couldn't use it for something else? And again, I make the joke of I wouldn't be able to date somebody else with a name that I had before for a similar reason. But would you be able to use, let's say you have an elephant character, would you be able to use the name Dusty? If you made a video game and you had a non-elven character, but that was your PC character that you were playing, would you be able to name it Dusty? Or is it so synonymous with its race, with its class, like healer, elf, all these other factors, would you be able to get away with that? Like, obviously, I roll with Dusty outside of LARPing.
Right.
As a overall, coverall name. I am known as Dusty in LARP. I am known as Dusty in the fur community. I am known as Dusty. My mom had called me Dusty once when I was in my room not paying attention, and she's calling me down, and I'm not paying attention, and she's like, Dusty, get over here. And I was like, huh, what? Something's happening. It was almost scarier than getting the full name treatment.
Oh, fair.
So I responded to Dusty. So is it something like that where you can kind of pull away a little bit? Because even then, though, if I'm going to make my halfling character, I go by Twitch Tinkerfoot. There's aspects there that I have to go with. So is Dusty White a very standalone character on its own, or does the name itself allow some play so you can make an elephant character, or you can make some other character?
I don't think so, because to me, the persona part of me is way different than the Dusty part of me, I guess, the leader type mentality, or the
personality.
caregiver. I feel like there's parts of my personality that would identify with the elephants aren't synonymous with that. They aren't the same. So it'd be something different or funny or cuter than Dusty would be.
So personality would become synonymous with those characters.
Yes.
Personality would be synonymous with the name even. So even if you took away the physical form of the character, the physical attributes, be it an elephant, an elf, whatever, and you created this list of personality traits, this formless list of adjectives,
right?
You would throw a name to that. So as soon as you start thinking leadership, healer, caregiver, watchful, confidence, you would put Dusty under there,
right?
And then other adjectives would fill in for other names.
Yep.
All right, then. And it's one way to name characters. It's one way to list things out. Fantastic. So, again, we're really happy to say that we are part of Season 2 for America's Next Top Podcaster, hosted by Brian Ibbott of Coverville. I believe the prize is the podcast is...
I don't think they've officially
No
announced
prize?
anything
Okay.
yet. So it's one of those things where they leave it kind of vague as just like almost bragging rights at the beginning.
Sure.
Because if you leave out you leave too much of that prize thing, you get people that aren't
They
into
do it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, they do it for the wrong reasons.
No, for
So
sure.
I
It
think
is a
it's more of
learning...
just
I mean, realistically, the prize is going to be working
the knowledge and the experience.
working with other podcasters, as well as getting coached by people who literally make a living out of it.
Right.
Who literally like, hey, what do you do for a living? I talk a lot. So, well, I mean, it'd be nice if we could do that, but hopefully with this show, it gets us a little bit more exposure, gets us a little bit more knowledge and experience in entertainment and how to do this and how to...
And hell, at this point, adventure awaits.
Adventure awaits, my dear. It's funny you say that. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. There may be surprises coming in the near future, at least for you. But until then, just remember that we are all geeks, and to be otherwise may very well mean to live without passion. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Grey Muzzle Geekery with Dusty Red and Dusty White.
You can support our continued geekery at our Patreon website, patreon.com/Grey Muzzle Geekery. Be sure to check back often as we start to add geek cred levels.
You can send your questions and comments to us at greymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at Grey Muzzle Geek.
We can be found on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and Buzzsprout.
And a special thank you to Pepper Coyote for our intro theme. And if you like what you heard, you can find more of his stuff on Spotify, Patreon, or directly from his Bandcamp page.